Hello and welcome to another episode of Bevy Basics. In this video, I'll be covering plugins. I'm sorry for this video being a little bit late. It was supposed to come out alongside my Platformer in Bevy episode where I implemented a lot of plugins, sort of linking the two series in that you can watch this video if you want to know details about plugins and that video if you wanted to see them in use. That video will be in the iCard if you would like to go check it out now, even though it is over a week old. In this video, I'll be covering what a plugin is. I've broken this into the Marker plugin, the Generic plugin, and a Config plugin. Then I'll show you how to make a plugin in Bevy, and finally touch on where you can find plugins. So what are plugins? Well, plugins are simply structs that can be used to group parts of your application together, whether this is internal to your game or as part of a larger library that you are producing to share with the community. In this video, I'm going to make a distinction between three subgroups, this being the Marker plugin, a Generic plugin, and a Configuration plugin. Although under the hood, Bevy does not actually make a distinction between these plugins, and they're actually more of a design decision than an implementation difference. I'm making the distinction because personally I think it's easier to understand the plugins with the different ways you can approach making them. Although anything I say about any one of these types of plugins could be applied to them all independently. In most cases, beginners to Bevy will be using what I call a Marker plugin. This is just an empty struct that can be used to group aspects of your game's logic and functionality together. This is usually done for systems and resources, although it can be additionally applied for additional plugins, or enabling certain functionality, such as adding events or assets to your game. The primary idea behind Marker functions is that it is easier to group together the functionality and make sure that all critical resources are initialized before the systems are run. If anyone that's developed Bevy for any length of time will be aware, if you have a resource in your system that is not optional, Bevy will crash when a system attempts to access that resource. This is where Marker plugins are very useful. You can have a plugin that adds the systems that need the resource, but also make sure that that resource is initialized before the systems run. A lot of the time for your self-contained games, this is not going to be necessary because you know what resources you will need to enable in order for your systems to run. But in a third-party plugin, it will not necessarily be clear which resources are required for which systems to run. In these cases, they can split these systems and resource groupings into their own plugins so that you can enable all of the required systems and resources with a single input, rather than needing to know how underneath these systems and resources interact. Marker plugins can also be used to make sure that resources remain private to your crate. The primary reason for doing this is you may have a resource that needs to have values set in a certain way or within a certain range. In these cases, you want to keep the resource private so that the users of your plugin do not attempt to change these values directly. Instead, provide them with an event that they can use in order to change these values. This will prevent them from being able to put invalid values inside the resource and protect any other manipulation or interaction that may happen between those systems. Such as you may have a change detection system that logs all the changes into a file so that you know what the old value was when the value is manipulated. You do not necessarily want the user of your plugin to be able to manipulate this resource directly, so keeping it private is a good way to prevent this from happening. The next type of plugin is the Generic plugin. This plugin is very similar to a Marker plugin, but takes in an additional generic type. This itself could be a marker, allowing you to insert multiple unique copies of a plugin, or it could be used as the marker component to indicate to which entities this plugin will affect, or this could be a complete component or a resource that the plugin manages, such as a change detection plugin, taking in which components is checking for changes and then tracking so that you can request what the removed value was. You'll often see these plugins called with the default constructor. This is simply because Rust compiler checker will have a complaint if you try to use an unused generic type. To correct for this, we have to use phantom data, which tells the compiler that we are aware that this is doing nothing more than marking. But phantom data then needs to be default constructed. Finally, there is the configuration plugin. You are unlikely to need this plugin on small games or when you're doing a lot of the programming in-house, since you rarely add functionality that you then don't want to use in your game. but is very common when using third-party plugins, since the configuration plugin allows you to provide fields that are then used to configure the value of that plugin. You can see this in the Bevy Rapier plugin, where you can set the scale of the world and the gravity using nothing but the plugin and its configuration values. Bevy also has a variation of this that it's taken to the extreme, and they're called plugin groups. Unlike normal plugins, plugin groups don't directly modify your application, instead returning a plugin group builder that contains all the plugins that you then want to add. This allows the most flexibility, since it's possible for a plugin group to take in some configuration itself and then apply appropriate sane values to all of the plugins that it manages. This could also be seen extending to a generic value, where the plugin group will take in a generic and then apply that generic appropriately to its sub-plugins while maintaining any ungeneric plugins as they are. Now you know what a plugin is and where you might want to use them. Let's move on to how you actually create a plugin, and consequently plugin groups. To make a plugin is very simple. All three types have exactly the same implementation. This is why I said that they're more of a design distinction than an actual implementation detail. All you need to do to make any struct into a plugin is implement the plugin trait on it. This trait has three methods: the name of the plugin, which is used primarily for debugging purposes, and by default is the name of the struct; is unique, which indicates whether it is meaningful to add multiple copies of this plugin. By default, this value is true. You can set it to false if your plugin has non-exclusive configuration that you want to enable by inserting it more than once, such as having a default file path. And finally, the only method that is mandatory to implement for your plugin is the build method. This method is where you get to manipulate the application so that your plugin can be added. You can do anything inside this plugin since you have direct access to the application through a mutable reference. This allows you to register systems, insert resources, or even add additional plugins, or make any other changes that you would need if you were creating the application from scratch. Plugin groups work a little differently. They still have the name, but they also have a set method to override the value of an individual plugin. This returns a plugin building group, which we'll cover in a second. You'll also find that their build method is slightly different. This too, returning a plugin group builder. The plugin group builder is a struct that holds the order and data of the plugins in the group. It also has a whole bunch of functions attached to it that allow you to manipulate how these plugins will be inserted, the order that they're applied, and their default values. This allows you to make sure that all the plugins you are added are in the correct dependency order so that the plugins that rely on other plugins are added after those plugins have finished setting up. It is very important to split your plugins at the correct locations, but this is hard to generalize. As a good rule, the best approach is to make your plugins as small as possible while still encapsulating all of the required systems and resources in order for them to function on their own, but large enough so that they incorporate a coherent idea without needing lots of small plugins to be put together in order to get anything functional out. If you do have lots of small plugins that can all work together but are not all mandatory, this is where plugin groups can be useful, since you can use them to enable and disable certain plugins based on configuration. On the screen, you'll see three ways you can set up the relationships of your plugins. One is inside a plugin group, where each plugin relies on a different plugin and requires your plugin group to specify the correct order for these plugins to be added. Directly below that is the option of having each plugin be completely independent and not rely on anything from any other plugin. The final one on the right is to have one plugin that sets up certain characteristics such as resources or systems that the other plugins rely on. Then the other plugins can be initialized. This is not inside a plugin group, since you could be using one of the default Bevy plugins and then initializing your own plugins on top, or allowing the user to decide which of your plugins to use, similar to how Bevy Rapier allows you to have a 2D or 3D plugin depending on what type of physics you want. If you're looking for any plugins on Bevy, the best place to start is the official Bevy website. On this website, there is a page called Assets. When you go into this page, you will find a list of learning materials and a curated list of assets. These assets are plugins that you can use inside your Bevy game. They are grouped such like 2D, 3D, AI, and other groups that people that make the plugin have decided that their plugin fits into. Because Bevy is open source and built on a free and open community, there are a lot of plugins out there. and they're only going to grow as the community of Bevy expands, allowing new people to come in and add their plugins to this list. The only drawback of this currently is that there are a lot of plugins that are out of date because Bevy has done an update and these plugins have not been maintained. Though this is a good opportunity for anyone who wants to learn Bevy and is starting out, since you can go and attempt to update someone's older version of Bevy to a newer version, and this will give you a lot of experience in Bevy and how to interact with a lot of the systems, without needing to come up with and understand what you may need to access. You'll also be adding to the Bevy community by updating plugins that people may want to use in their applications. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the Bevy plugins. Don't forget to check out some of my other content, such as Platformer in Bevy, if you'd like to see some of the information in this video put into practice. It would also be much appreciated if you would support me on Patreon. You'll also find the script and slideshow of this video posted for free on Patreon. No need to actually be a Patreon to access it.